I don't think I took my pills this morning.
Doesn't matter. Just.
Dorianne and Sarah, are we in the right meeting? Inland Water. Did I push the wrong button?
Oh, no.
You're in the right place.
We're all together.
All right.
Everybody just had their cameras off, John. You're good. We just don't seem to have the chair or the vice chair. That appears to be what we are missing for the time being. And we do have a busy agenda this evening. So for all of our applicants, if you can keep your cameras off and your microphones muted until you're called on or your item comes up, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
David? David?
On your computer. What name did you use? Did you use Dave.Donna?
I just went in and looked up the email.
But what email?
I guess it's Dave.Donna.
freaking me out, Paul. Yeah. Oop, I didn't turn my mic off for that. So the chair will be joining us shortly. For all of our applicants, if you could just keep your cameras and mics off until we get to your item, that would be very helpful. It's easier for the chair to see the commission members and their votes as we go along. Thank you. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Linda. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Let me just hit record.
This conference will now be recorded.
I think we were technically recording before that for everyone, so.
Okay, I called a meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of April 5th at 6:32 p.m. I just finished a nice nap. I was rudely interrupted by Linda. We have present today, let's see, Aho, Cooley, Chandy, Cotton, Tony, Accorsi, and alternate DeVivo. Oh, hi, Dorian, Plant also. Let me change this from view everyone to view cameras. Okay, very good. So we have enough.
You do. I do believe that Mr. DeVivo needs to be seated for absent members Hall and Ron.
That's right. Okay. We have minutes from March 11th special meeting to approve.
Mr. Chair, this is Linda Painter. You actually have two sets of minutes that you need to approve. One is the March 11th, 2021 special meeting. One is the March 15th, 2021. You could handle that in one motion if you so chose, unless there are corrections to one of those sets of minutes that needs to happen, or if we need to note who was here and who was not.
Okay, very good. Good idea. So,
Excuse me,
yes.
I need to be disqualified from one of them, so I don't know if that makes a difference.
So we should probably do them separately. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, March 11th special meeting minutes.
This is Binu. I move that they be accepted as presented.
Okay.
This is Tony. I'll second.
Okay. Second by Cooley. Then
Okay.
Moved by Chandy, second by Cooley, I believe. Yes. All in favor? Okay, approved unanimously.
Of course, he is
March
disqualified.
15th. Of course, he's disqualified. March 15th, regular meeting.
Candy moves to accept as
Okay,
presented.
moved by Chandy. Moved by Chandy,
Of course, he seconds.
second by Corsi. All in favor? Okay. Passed unanimously. Okay, so the outdoor, the revision to zoning regulations of the outdoor dining, we don't need to do that because the state has already moved on that, right, Linda?
Yes, so the House, I believe, actually did it week before last, and the Senate approved it last week. I'm not sure if the governor has signed it yet. However, given the press release he issued after the House's approval of the bill, saying he was eagerly could not wait to sign it, we assume that's going to happen. So what you have on your agenda is a recommendation that you withdraw the proposed change and cancel the hearing that is scheduled for 7 p.m. this evening.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion. Someone like to put that forward?
This is Cooley. I move to withdraw the PZC-initiated amendment to the zoning regulations related to temporary outdoor dining provisions, PZC file 907-50, and cancel the public hearing scheduled for 7 p.m. this evening.
Moved by Cooley.
Second by
I saw DeVivo. Second by DeVivo. All in favor? Okay, passed unanimously. We do have to open a public hearing even if we're going to close it. That seems a little ridiculous, but
You do. This is the procedural. So we do need to open the public hearing. What I am not going to do is read all of the information on how to speak. So the public hearing that you have scheduled for 6:40 p.m. and you actually have 3 minutes before you can open that. So
okay.
If you want to jump to another item on your agenda, you can do that and we can go back to this public hearing.
All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to help you, there's nothing under old business
Right. Okay.
for you to act on. So you would you'd be moving to new business at that point.
Okay. So new business would be application for modification of the building area envelope established as part of the Bone Mill Road subdivision for 200 Bone Mill Road. And that's just receiving the application, right?
That's up to the commission. So you do have a report for me, and Sarah Semro, the applicant, is with us, and she has joined us and turned her camera on.
Okay.
And
Hi.
I'm going to share my screen so that you can actually see what is being requested. So Ms. Semro's property is at 200 Bone Mill Road. So this is Route 44. This is Bone Mill Road, and for those of you familiar with it, this is the Tri-County greenhouse located on the corner here. So this was a 6-lot subdivision that was approved back in 2004. As part of that, this open space was dedicated to the town, and it does abut on this backside here, state of Connecticut land that's owned by the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, and that the town, through an agreement, manages as open space. So in the report, I did give you a history. The commission has varied the building area envelope on multiple occasions for sheds, which you are specifically authorized to do. You have also granted for the abutter created essentially in that case a second building area envelope located in this area, and we'll show you what that looks like. The applicant is requesting a modification to the building area envelope, similar to what was done for the neighbor. So what you see on the screen here in red is the existing building area envelope. It's located 25 feet from that side property line, which is what the requirement was back in 2004 when the subdivision was created. And that is a distance you cannot vary. Just for the record, when it's a budding property that is not part of the subdivision, you cannot modify that. This is the proposed building area envelope modification. You can see that it wraps around the existing septic system, and the circle that you see there is actually a proposed pool, and that is what has generated this request from the applicant. So to give you an idea, this next graphic actually shows you what was done for the abutting property at 198 Bone Mill Road, where a second building area envelope was created. And at that time, you did a 30-foot setback from the town open space that was dedicated as part of the subdivision, and 5 feet on either side because it was interior to the subdivision. So what you see for the applicant here mimics that, in that it's a 5-foot setback from the abutting property at 198, 30 feet from the town open space, and then 25 feet from the state of Connecticut. Now, currently, the setback for the RER 90 district is now 35 feet. However, given the fact that it was 25 feet at the time of the subdivision, and quite frankly, if this were a lot with normal frontage, it would qualify for a 25-foot side yard setback just pursuant to our reductions for non-conforming lots because of essentially its, we'll call it frontage or lot width, however you want to phrase it, that's on the common driveway. So you have two options with this. One is that you could receive this if you feel that you need to go and visit the property, or if you were ready to move on this tonight, there is a draft motion if you thought this was acceptable.
Okay. Any comments from the commission? Which way that you'd like to go?
Any questions? Ms. Semro is here to answer any questions you have. There are also some photos that are in the packet.
It seems pretty straightforward, very similar to something we've done before in that same area. Would the commission be? Would the commission like to go forward with this tonight on a vote?
I can put the motion forward and we can see.
Okay. All right.
This is Chandy. I move to approve the application of Sarah Semrau to revise the building area envelope for Lot 4 of the Bone Mill Road subdivision, 200 Bone Mill Road, as shown on plans presented on April 5th, 2021. This modification shall become effective upon recording on the land records.
Okay. Moved by Chandy
Lance seconds it.
and by second. Any discussion? Sarah, I think you're in luck tonight.
Yay. Thank you very much. Appreciate
all in
it.
favor? All in favor? Okay, you're good to go. Have
All
fun
right,
in
thank
that
you.
pool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, now we can go back and open our short-lived public hearing.
Yes, you can. So for the record, this is item number 5A under public hearings. It is a special permit application to authorize an agbotic greenhouse project at 438 Browns Road. John and Donna Preet are the applicants, and Enviro Enterprises LLC is the property owner. PZC file 1370. And this hearing was scheduled to open at 6:40 p.m. this evening. And if you would like to open the hearing, Mr. Chair, I will then read the announcement and then you can take action to continue this.
Okay, so I open the public hearing at 6:44 p.m. with members present: Aho, Cooley, Chandy, Cotton, Frattoni, Corsi, DeVivo seated for absent members, and Plant. And what else do we do to open a hearing?
You know the time.
The time, yes, it's 6:45.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The following public hearing notice was published on March 23rd, 2021 on the town's website under the legal notices section. The Mansfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold the following public hearings on April 5th, 2021 via a web-based virtual meeting to hear comments regarding the following applications. At 6:40 p.m., special permit application of John and Donna Preet to authorize an agbotic greenhouse project on property located at 438 Browns Road. Assessor's parcel ID 27.56.1-1, PZC file number P1370. Information on how to participate in the public hearing will be on the meeting agenda, which will be posted at http://www.mansfieldct.gov/agenda center no less than 24 hours before the meeting. No information from the public shall be received after the close of the public hearings. Additional information regarding these applications is available by emailing Plan Zone Dept@mansfieldct.org. Paul Aho, Chair. The agenda also, just for the commission's information, does list several communications that have been received regarding the project, including the Economic Development Commission, an email from John Leonard, received March 29th, 2021, a communication from Jean Leonard to the Connecticut Department of Agriculture Commissioner that was received on March 30th, 2021. Email comments from Dave and Donna Evan on the proposed project. And I will note you have two sets of those. The second one, which leaves with an asterisk, was received as a corrected version of the first one. So they intended that to replace their other comments. Dave and Judy Spencer, April 3rd, 2021, and Scott and Ellie Rhodes on April 5th, 2021. As noted on the agenda for this evening, we are recommending that this hearing be immediately continued or adjourned to May 3rd meeting. The applicant is still in the process of reviewing and responding to comments, and really we're not ready this evening to proceed with a hearing. So that motion or that suggestion is on your agenda. I don't believe, just looking at our list of participants, I don't believe we have anyone here this evening. The neighbors that had contacted us, we did advise that this would be continued to the May 3rd meeting. So.
All right, so we have a motion to adjourn. Okay, go ahead, Carlita.
I guess it would help if I unmuted, huh? Move to adjourn the public hearing on the special permit application of John and Donna Preet for a greenhouse project at 438 Browns Road to Monday, May 3rd, 2021 at 6:40 p.m. If the town has returned to in-person meetings, the hearing will be held in the Town Hall Council Chamber at 4 South Eagleville Road. Otherwise, the hearing will be held virtually, and information on how to join the virtual meeting will be included on the meeting agenda.
Moved by Cotton.
For Tony. I'll second it.
Second by Tony. All in favor? Okay, passed unanimously. We'll revisit this in May. Okay.
And I stand correct, as I look through the list again, I did see Mr. Evan, who is one of the abutters, and the applicant was also logged in, but they were advised that this would be continued. So. Okay,
good. The amendment to zoning regulations, we already voted that we're not going to do that tonight. There was no old business. We did the first new business. Now we're down to the second new business, which is application for modification to site plan special permit to authorize installation of an additional facade mounted business identity sign.
All right. So I believe the applicant is here for this item as well. And you do have the application materials in your packet. So as I explained in my report on this, in this particular case, the mall has created a new tenant space. I believe that this was previously TD Bank, which did not have an exterior entrance. And so what's now happened is they're on a corner of the building that is right next to, or projects out from, I should say, one of the mall's main entrances. And pursuant to our regulations, we actually require your identity signs to face the street. So they are proposing, and I'll share my screen here to show this. They are proposing to do so with and utilize the empty sign plaque that exists on the pergola in front of the building for the new tenant, which is Spectrum. If you were to drive down there today, you would actually see that there is now in this area, which used to be a blank brick wall and some nondescript doors, this is actually storefront glazing here now with windows. And then on the flip side, and this is where I wish I had a photo to put up for you, is where the entrance is. So to go back to the mall. So this is the mall's main entrance here. This is where the pergola is located. So that's the sign that's facing 195. And right here on this edge is where the entrance to the new Spectrum store would be located. So pursuant to our regulations, that if your entrance is located on a facade that does not face the street, you have the ability to, the Planning and Zoning Commission can approve a second sign to be located with the direct principal customer entrance. And the criteria for that, other than the size limitations, are that the Planning and Zoning Commission determines that said sign will clearly promote traffic safety, the public convenience, and excellence in design and aesthetic character. And it does note that a customer entrance off a common mall entry is not considered a direct principal customer entrance. Our staff's interpretation of this was that if you were interior to the mall, so this is clearly an exterior entrance on that.
Okay, we have a motion. Would someone like to put that motion forward and we can discuss that? Candy. Okay.
I move to approve the modification request of Mark Cohen, Onco Signs, to install a 13.6 square foot sign over the new entrance to the Spectrum tenant space at Eastbrook Mall, 95 Stores Road, pursuant to the plans prepared by Stratus Unlimited, dated February 15, 2021, based on a finding that the proposed sign will promote traffic safety, the public convenience, and represents excellence in design and aesthetic character.
Moved by Chandy.
Plant seconds it.
Okay, second by Plant. Any discussion? Seems to be a reasonable request to me. All those in favor? Okay, passed unanimously.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right.
Okay, revise the calendar.
Revise the calendar, yes. When we were working with an applicant on a project schedule based on when they plan on coming in, we realized that since July 4th falls on a Sunday this year, it's actually recognized by the town on Monday, July 5th. Therefore, we cannot have a meeting for you on Monday, July 5th, and we need to reschedule that for Tuesday, July 6th.
Okay, we have said motion. Lots of motions tonight. Not much movement, but we got lots of motions. Cooley, you're smiling. You gonna put it forward?
Sure. This is Cooley. I move to adopt a revised annual meeting schedule that changes the date of the first meeting in July from July 5th, 2021 to July 6th, 2021, and direct staff to file the revised calendar with the town clerk.
Moved by Cooley. Second. Is there a second? Second by DeVivo.
Devo.
All in favor? All in favor? Okay, we're all in favor. We're moving fast tonight.
All right.
Now we do have the two pre-application ones.
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
I like those.
So for the record, the next item on your agenda under new business is item D, and this is a pre-application review pursuant to section 7-159B Connecticut General Statutes, proposed multifamily development at 497 Middle Turnpike. Pursuant to the policies adopted by the PZC on May 19th, 2014, the pre-application review shall be limited to a total of 30 minutes, including applicant presentation and commission questions. The pre-application review and any results or information obtained from it may not be appealed under any provision of the general statutes by any person or entity and shall not be binding on the applicant or any authority, commission, department, agency, or other official having jurisdiction to review the proposed project. So you do have in your packets the pre-application materials from the applicant, and they do have some representatives here this evening who will be making this presentation. I will note for the record that the draft site plan was received after we initially published the packet, and for that reason, it is marked with an asterisk on your agenda. And with that, I am going to turn over presentation control to, I believe, Mr. Lee, so that he can start the presentation. And for the record, we are starting this at 6:56 p.m. So by my math, you have until 7:26 p.m.
Great. Thank you. I will not share for now, but I will, when we get to Ron Gooden and Kyle's part of the presentation, they'll show the package materials that we will talk about. But first and foremost, I'm Chalk Lee. I'm here on behalf of CMT Stores, SPV. We're the owners of the property located at 497 Middle Turnpike, otherwise known as the golf course. Before we get started, there's a couple of new team members that I'd like to introduce today. Joe Williams, our zoning attorney from Shipman and Goodwin. He's been to a couple of these hearings and pre-app meetings, but I think this is the first time he's meeting everyone here virtually. So I'd like to introduce him. We also have with us here today Jeff Smith, architect from Niles Bolton, who's been helping us with our site plan and designs. And new members to the team, Mr. Ron Gooden and Mr. Kyle Koleva, architects from Phase Zero Design, who are the designers for the townhomes that they will discuss shortly. The purpose of this pre-application meeting today are twofold. Number one, we would like to update the members of the commission, since it's been a while since we've been here in front of everyone, on where we are on our redevelopment plan for this property, to receive some initial feedback, and hopefully it's to everyone's liking, and we'll continue to tweak along the way through the process. And the second thing we'd like to discuss today is the possibility of making some minor changes to the zoning text to accommodate a design that we think would be better aligned with the guidelines that have been provided in the latest zoning regulations. In particular, the key parts that we're looking at are in Article 10, Section B, where there's a desire to create things like private outdoor space, separate entrances, reducing exposure and creating more privacy for the living areas. And so what we've come up with over the last few months is what we think is a design that can accommodate most, if not all, of the features that have been highlighted in the zoning text guidelines. However, there is one caveat, and Joe will discuss later on, is that we would like to be able to utilize some of the space within our max height restriction. So in our current zoning, we are allowed 45 feet. We're not proposing anything above that. We would just like to evaluate and get some feedback on whether or not our design that utilize some of that space to create more living area for the families and residents, whether that would be a palatable change that we can discuss. So with that, I will pass this over to Ron and Kyle, who will walk everyone through the design they've come up with, and then get feedback from everyone. So for now,
if you can tell me who is going to be doing the actual presentation, I will give you that control, Kyle. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Kyle has the magic screen tonight.
I'm hoping it works. Okay. Can everybody, I'm assuming everybody can see my screen at this point? Perfect. So tonight we are presenting these proposed townhouses. Basically our conceptual feel would be a modern style New England farmhouse with the use of clapboard siding, board and batten, something a little bit younger and keep, titles with the area. The goal would be is that this is a view from inside the development, inside one of the courtyards, that these townhomes look onto these nicely landscaped spaces. Each townhome has a separate 2-car garage with its own entrance, with living space on the first, second, and under the roof line. So normally in a farmhouse, you sort of have that dormer that peeks up through the roof, and we are proposing using some of that space within the roof line to create a third bedroom for the units. We also have another view from inside the development, which is the existing pond that lies on the golf course. So this is something looking like if you're standing on the current bridge, looking back at the townhomes. So this is the pond, and a lot of these townhomes would look out onto the green area. We did take a huge focus on making sure that a lot of these, or all of these townhomes, look into a nice green space so that it doesn't look, and everyone's looking onto parking lots, everything. It feels like stores, and it feels like, a residential area. So here's one of the typical designs for these townhomes. Each unit has a 2-car garage attached with a foyer. Here you come up on the first floor, which is your main living space, with a kitchen, living, dining area, a half bath, and in-house laundry. On the proposed third level, which is right here with these windows, would be 2 bedrooms with 2 baths, and the proposed use of that additional space within the height restriction would be this third bedroom, which would be this dormer here, and a potential proposed outdoor living space, which is here. This unit has a use of some brick at the bottom, some 12-inch horizontal siding, and 10-inch horizontal siding and 4-inch siding here with architectural shingles. Each unit has a slightly different design when it comes to. There's going to be about 5 different facade variations. All will take in account with the same use of materials. This one shows a 12-inch board and batten with a horizontal lap siding. Up here on the dormer, instead of using a pitched roof, we have a shed roof with some standing seam metal roofs, and the railings that would go around here would be a metal with sort of like a wood handrail. So taking some sort of clean lines, but still respecting, the area that they're in. We're also building within that 45 feet. And then there's just another variation of a prototype here, which is the last 2 are the 2 corners that would be sort of on these ends that you're looking at. And then you have the infills in throughout. Ron, do you have anything else to add?
I would say, well done, Kyle. The the intent really is to vary the facade so that they don't look like cookie cutter right after each other. The beauty of the townhouse design is that you start to minimize that big field of parking that you can get a lot of times when you have multifamily. A lot of that parking is in essence, tucked under the building. So I think all the points that Kyle made very important, and the fact that we're creating a lot of these smaller pods of buildings versus long expanses of buildings, so that we're able to break them up, allow sun to get through, create views, especially views of both courtyards and the hills behind, going off to one side, as well as that field over there towards the northeast.
Yes.
Of the site overall. We're happy to answer any questions in regard to that. I think Joe might have a little bit to discuss as well afterwards.
So I have a question about. It appears that each bedroom has a bathroom. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom.
Now, is that because that's the style these days, that every bedroom has to have a bathroom? I know that when we were in the Reg Review Committee, when we're talking about primarily student type housing and family type housing, not every bedroom has a bathroom. But I don't know if that style has changed these days, and now every bedroom has to have a bathroom, even if it's a family oriented toward families.
It depends. A lot of times we're seeing that everyone likes to have their own individual bathroom in their individual space, especially when it comes to teenagers. Sometimes there's a Jack and Jill shared bathroom between the two bedrooms, but normally we do try to grant access to a bathroom direct from a bedroom when designing. This design just sort of entitled with these kind of having end walls allowed us to have the space between the stairs for a bathroom, an individual bathroom for each bedroom.
Yeah, just because of what the world has gone through in the past year, the townhouse design has really become more and more and more popular. Everybody really likes the idea of having their own door and their own their own bathrooms. Just unfortunately with what we've had to go through over the past year, and it's really been in kind of design and kind of review for the past few months with the folks, and I think it's become a very popular
So
family
would you
home
expect these townhouses to be attractive to families?
I would think so. And I think, Chuck, you've probably done some studies on that.
Absolutely. I think the beauty of these townhomes, in particular, having the ability for a private garage for vehicles for two working parents or family members, to be able to have direct access from the garage into the home without having to go through a public corridor, without having your children go through a public corridor, or I think that is a strong benefit that I think a lot of families will enjoy. And I think the beauty of this design really, I think, is the family room is elevated above the street level. So you're getting a lot of the privacy that normally as a family living on, let's say, a ground floor of an apartment building would normally not get. So we think this design, where all of the living space is elevated off of the ground level, does create that privacy, does create the creation of that home feeling, and also enough segregation on this design where everyone has their own bathroom and everyone still has enough personal space and also private outdoor space that I think, especially given with, as Ron mentioned, having that outdoor space that is private without having to use shared amenities is going to be very, very attractive from those families, I would imagine.
And not having to clear the snow off of your car in the winter when you're trying to take kids out there and stuff.
Go ahead, Luann.
Sure. In your project description, you talk about garden-style apartment units. Do you have any plans or drawings of those, or were you going to present more about that?
We have looked at some garden-style apartments in previous application meetings, but I think those. I don't know if Kyle, you have that with you. We can share that as well. But maybe while I do that, let me send Kyle this layout. But yes, we do have a garden-style 3-story development that was what we had in mind when we asked for the height increase previously. If everyone recalls, we had asked for the ability to increase our height to 45 feet to accommodate pitched roofs, which we have designed that today. They would be double-loaded 3-story apartment units with a pitched roof on top, and the regulations currently state that none of the space below the pitched roof above the 3rd story could be used. However, when we were proposing that, we only had in mind the garden-style apartments, but now that we're moving towards more of a townhouse type design that has the parking essentially taking up all the space on the ground floor, we'd like to be able to go back and maybe utilize some of that additional space to give that back to the residents and the families, because otherwise you would then have a full floor of parking, and then you have 2 stories above to get to the 3 stories, and it feels a little tighter and provides less of the amenities that we kind of alluded to just now.
So just to clarify, are you now proposing solely to do the townhome style, Or are you still proposing to do a mixture of both the townhome style that you just talked about and the what you called garden style apartment units?
So we are providing a mix. If you look at the site plan here, so this is a preliminary plan. And part of the reason why it's still in draft form is mainly because we need to kind of understand what the townhome designs are going to be before we can iterate and create a finalized site plan. But for now, what we imagine is something like this, where you have most of the site consists, if you look at the darker color yellow boxes, those are where our townhomes are going to be. And you can see that it's for the most part of the site, at least the part that's visible to Middle Turnpike or Cedar Swamp, those are going to be townhomes that are very well aligned with the neighborhood characteristics. And then in the back, where near the cell tower, is we're proposing 3 garden-style apartment buildings that would have 3 stories, as I mentioned, and would be apartments throughout, and would not exceed that 3rd story, and would solely be used for the pitch roof. And so, yes, so Kyle, I just sent to you the rendering that we did back in December for the 3-story garden style apartments. You want to pull that up?
Yep.
Sure. If you scroll through, this is the older site plan that only had garden style. So we've moved past that. Part of it was because of the great feedback we've received on sort of not having just 6 large buildings, but to have a mix of unit types of not just garden style, but also have townhomes. So if you look at this rendering here, this here is a 3-story garden style apartment building with a clubhouse on the right that fully adheres to the zoning guidelines as currently stated regarding the maximum height of 45 feet and also maximum story of 3 stories. This design does require surface parking, so the parking is now outside of the building and moved into the area surrounding the building. And therefore, as we think about the townhome design, we'd like to see if some of that area where currently the dormers are could be an additional bedroom to accommodate the townhome design.
Bino,
So-
you had your hand up. Oh, no, go ahead, finish up, Luann. Yeah.
I just had 2 comments. One is, do each of those units have something that would be called a garden? I'm trying to figure out where the word garden comes from, because it doesn't look like there's actually any dedicated per unit outdoor space with any of those. Am I missing that? Is that just a descriptor that you're using, or is there actually any outdoor space?
Yeah, the other type that we just showed, that's what we would generally call the garden style apartments. They don't have a private garden, but that's what we're trying to accomplish with the townhomes, because with the townhomes, if we're able to go up to that extra story, we do want to create that private outdoor space because we think it is very important to have that, especially these days.
That's funny. It's kind of like a Disney term, when you get the garden apartments or the garden room in Disney World, you have the view of the garden because you're down on that garden level.
Sure. I'm familiar with garden apartments that actually have a garden, so that's
Yeah.
confused about that. But are you also asking for this garden design to have that extra, you can call it a 3rd story or a third plus bedroom?
No, so this one is this design here, the garden style, is compliant with the language as written. What we're asking for today is specific to the townhome design, which, as you can see on this rendering, is the same height. We're not going above the 45 feet, but we're asking to see if we can utilize some of that space on that top level there to create the garden and to create that master bedroom for the parents, have their own separation from the children's bedrooms.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you very much.
Bino.
So for the townhouse style, I was interested, will that be ADA compliant? Yes. Okay.
some of the units, so from for the upper levels, I'll leave this to Ron and Kyle to describe more detail, but we will have fully ADA compliant units in the different types of unit mixes that we have. While the bathrooms and the utilization of these spaces here are expected to be ADA compliant, there are no elevators in the townhomes. However, we do have the garden style apartments that will have elevators and full ADA compliant units as required to comply with the regulation.
Okay. One more question. In the townhouse style, all the parking is on the ground level, that is for the residents. What about guest parking? Are you having, will it be on the side of the garden style or?
Right. Well, we will have guest parking that would be mixed throughout the site. It wouldn't be a great number. Those would be specifically for guests, except for the ones that are closer to the apartment buildings where we envision the residents would mostly utilize those spaces. But we will have guest parking mixed in within these townhome designs.
Okay, thank you.
Carlita.
I just wanted to get a little more clarity on the townhomes and the ADA requirements. Are you saying that none of the townhomes that you're proposing to sell would be ADA compliant? They'd be, you know, the ones with the garages. In other words, they wouldn't have any elevators or any way for handicapped persons to buy those units. Is that correct?
Ron, do we have a design that would accomplish that?
We have and have looked at the opportunity to create what they call limited use elevators to create space in there. So I think we could potentially have the accommodations for such.
Could that be something that could be added on to certain units?
There is definitely a potential. It would just be, we'd have to tweak the plan a little bit to allocate a space that, you know, it might be one of these things where the bathroom in the, you know, one of the corners kind of gets resituated a little bit so that it makes the availability for that shaft to go throughout the space. It would just be some tweaking of the design to accommodate that to be future retrofitted if it was desired.
Oh, okay. Any other questions from the commission? I think in general, we are encouraging townhouses. We'd like to see some more built in Mansfield. There's certainly not a surplus of them at the moment. So I think from my perspective, I think you're going in the right direction. Yes, Katie.
My question is, I guess I'm confused. Are these going to be townhouses to rent or townhouses that will be sold as individual units?
These will be for rent.
They are all rents.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
I figured I would wait until the commissioners had asked their questions, but I just want to maybe talk about the legislative part of where we might propose to put a text amendment that would allow what we're suggesting, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I share a screen with you?
Yeah. Linda, does he have the ability
He
to
does.
share?
Yep.
Okay, good.
I've given him presentation control, so.
Okay. You see that text right there?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the section that Chuck was referring to. This is in Article 10, Section B10 of your multifamily regulations. And as you know, you have this standard here under building design for the RAR 90, which our site is in, and some other zones that maximum building height is 3 stories and 40 feet, provided the commission may approve a maximum height of up to 45 feet as part of a special permit, provided the following criteria are met. And this is the one you did fairly recently, that the enclosed space above 35 feet is limited to non-tenant storage or equipment for utilities. Our thought was, if the commission is amenable to the proposal, perhaps to add a new first bullet point right about here, something along the lines of, for townhouse style buildings only, a 4th story shall be permitted, for the maximum height of 45 feet shall not be exceeded. And we could just easily add on to the beginning of this existing bullet point, for all other buildings, comma, the enclosed space of the proposed structure about 35 feet, etc. So it would just carve out a limited exception for the townhouse style building, which, as you heard from our team, we believe accomplishes a number of the design objectives that the commission has put in place in your regulation, would allow us to make use of that space above the 3rd story, but would not change the height of the building versus compared to what it's already allowed to be. So we just wanted to see if anybody had an initial reaction to that idea.
Anyone have a comment about that? Personally, I don't see a problem with that. I know that we had a discussion about that. We've already had a discussion about that attic space. I think one of the members that might have objected to that has now left the commission. I don't think any other comments from the current commission.
Didn't you propose that the 3rd floor there was going to be storage originally? And we were, I think Vera was worried about people going up there with no guidelines and stuff.
Right. So at the time of when we proposed that this text here about having the storage space, that was for, we had the garden style apartments in mind, where it would be ground floor, 1st floor, and 2nd floor and 3rd floor units, and then the 3rd floor units potentially having a little more extra space, storage space. But given now that we are considering that the townhome design, we think it's a slight different utilization, or there's more of a benefit to have that extra utilization for the townhomes, particularly because an entire story is being used for parking only. So that's why we're coming back to see if it'd be possible to make a slight change for that.
Yes, go ahead, Luann.
Yeah, I think that what you're proposing definitely merits some thought. I think as we were talking earlier, part of our problem was with storage, but having the garage that could be utilized as storage really changes that equation quite a bit. So as far as I'm concerned, this is definitely something we would consider with that text change to allow for this just for the townhome design. I think we'd have to look into it a little further, but definitely something to consider.
Good point. Thank you.
Any other comments? We have one more minute to go. Katie, go ahead.
My question is because I do remember the conversation we had now, and the utilities, like the air conditioning and other stuff, was going to be put in that top space. And that's why we had concerns about tenants storing stuff in there. Because even though it might be gated off or whatever, the utilities were too accessible to the people that were living there. Where are the utilities going to be put now? In a corner of the garage, or are they going to take up a portion of that top tier, or are they going to be taking up space within the townhouse itself?
Go ahead, Kyle.
Currently, the compressor for the exterior unit would be located on the roof in a mechanical area. And then the use would be of a split ductless type system so that there would be very minimal equipment throughout the space. And then the water heater and electrical panel would be located most likely in the garage or, in the appropriate location. So each townhouse will have individual utilities.
Okay. I believe the time has expired. Go ahead, Sarah. Got a quick question?
Just quick. What's the size of these? What's the square footage of these units roughly?
25 square, Kyle. Is that where we ended up?
Yeah, I think they're each floor plate is 25 by 25. So, take about the living space. I think we're like 1,800 square feet, 1,700 square feet.
A little less because not the top floor is not full.
Top floor is partial, and the first floor you can't count because it's garage. So
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you all. We appreciate it.
Paul, I think Benu had a question as well.
Okay, Benu, go ahead.
Not a question, but I just wanted to remark that, these kinds of townhouses improves affordability for a certain sector, and I'd be open to, this idea.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Great point. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah, good night. So we have a second pre-application.
You do. So the next item on your agenda is item E under new business. It is another pre-application review pursuant to section 7-159B of Connecticut General Statutes. This project is a proposed redevelopment of 106 Stores Road, which you currently know as Champagne Motors, down across from Eastbrook Mall. Pursuant to the policies adopted by the PZC on May 19th, 2014, the pre-application review shall be limited to a total of 30 minutes, including applicant presentation and commission questions. The pre-application review and any results or information obtained from it may not be appealed under any provision of the general statutes by any person or entity and shall not be binding on the applicant or any authority, commission, department, agency, or other official having jurisdiction to review the proposed project. And just a note for the commission, there was a typo in the application form itself, and the correct name of the applicant for this project is CPH Mansfield LLC. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dory Famiglietti, who is the legal counsel for the applicant. And she's going to let me know if I'm going to be sharing my screen or if Matt Robillard is going to be sharing his screen.
I guess that's a question. Thank you, Linda. I guess that's a question for Matt. And Linda, I know you emailed me right beforehand, and I was in another meeting, so I didn't have a chance to circle back to Matt. Matt, do you have the ability to share your screen tonight, or do you want Linda to put up the plan?
I do have the ability to share my screen, yes. I'm just going to pull up the elevations in the plan right now.
Great. While he's doing that, I'll do some introductions if I could. Thank you. I'm Dory Famiglietti. I am an attorney at Kahan, Karinsky, and Capicella. I am representing the applicant CPH Mansfield LLC in this pre-application review with you. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us tonight. I do have, I believe I have Hillary Peters on from CPH. I'm not sure if we have someone else from CPH as well. And I've got Matt Robillard from BL Companies, who's also going to help me with the presentation. Really, the reason we wanted to come and talk to you on a pre-app like this was because we're really excited about the proposed redevelopment we have for this property, but it's a little bit beyond what your regulations would presently allow. So it does contemplate a couple of regulation amendments. And before we really went too much further with design, we obviously wanted to get your feedback and see how you felt about that. So let me just give you a bit of an overview. Matt, maybe could you put up the site plan first before we get into the renderings, if you don't mind? Thank you. And feel free to jump in if I misstate anything, Matt. But generally, I'm just going to take you through briefly what we said in our narrative summary that we submitted. This is the Champagne Motor Car property at 106 Stores Road. It's just over 5 acres. And the redevelopment of the property will leave the northerly half as the car dealership, and the southerly half, we're going to remove a portion of the existing building, and we're going to redevelop just under 2 acres of the southerly half to be a mixed restaurant and retail use development. So again, the northerly half will be about 3.2 acres and will continue as a car dealership, and the southerly half will be the redeveloped area. We're proposing about 8,500 square feet of building space there with up to 4 separate units, and you can see them here on this plan. 3 of those units presently are proposed for restaurant use, 1 unit for retail. The southerly portion of the site that we're proposing to redevelop will be a new curb cut driveway onto Storrs Road. It will be aligned with the signal across from the Eastbrook Mall. And then the access to the northerly part will continue. I believe that's at the existing curb cut. Is that correct, Matt?
That is correct.
Thank you. We do provide for an interconnection between the properties, the redevelopment area, as well as the property to the north. We do provide an interconnection there, and as well as to the south. Right there. Thank you. So a real integral component of what we want to do here is based on restaurant use, 3 potential restaurant users for these spaces. And although your regulations do currently allow a restaurant use in this zone, which is the PB1, it doesn't allow drive-throughs. And I don't think, after reviewing your regulations, I don't think drive-throughs are really allowed anywhere in town, not just in the PB1 district, but I don't think drive-throughs for restaurants, I should say, are allowed anywhere in town. However, as a lot of you may know and feel the same, in the wake of the COVID pandemic and the hopefully soon to be post-pandemic world, drive-throughs have been an absolute need and must for restaurants. And I really don't think that's going to change much. Not only has it been a long-term convenience for a lot of people, but now it's a need for these less means of contact and ways of servicing your customers. And it's really a demand, I think, both for the customers as well as for the restaurant owners to have this service. So I guess that's one of the things that I want you to put your thinking cap on and we can have a dialogue about is, do you believe that you would be comfortable working with us to amend the regulations, provide for, oh, there, my light went off, sorry. Oh, then I have to move. Sorry. We would provide for appropriate oversight of the commission through the special permit process to allow for drive-through services for restaurants in the PB1 zone, again with special permit, build in criteria necessary for those drive-throughs so they could be safe from an operational standpoint, traffic circulation, pedestrian movements, things like that. But we do think that we could work together, as long as you're open to it, to craft a regulation that would give you the controls that you need to make sure it's done in a safe and correct manner, and that would allow this specific development to move forward. So that's the first real component that we need to think about. And the second, which is kind of tied to the drive-throughs, is in order to have a restaurant with a drive-through, obviously we need area on site to accommodate that traffic. So that's going to be on site queuing areas so that there's no traffic impediments and certainly no spillover to the adjacent road. We need to accommodate all of that on site. And really, in order to make that happen, it involves pushing the development further to the back portion of the site so we have that on-site stacking. When you first enter the property, gives us adequate queuing room to lead up to the building, circulate around the building, and then room to safely get out with any impediments back out onto Storrs Road. That is the second area where we need to talk about some relief under the regulations, because right now in the PB1 zone, you have a minimum and maximum front setback line. Which really requires the building to be up closer to the street line and not where we would have to situate it here to accommodate a drive-through. So we think that this is an exciting development. We've got some great vision and users contemplated for this site, but really it's driven by the restaurant component and that drive-through service that would be an integral and necessary part of those restaurant uses. And that's why we wanted to come and talk to you a little bit about what we're proposing. Matt, do you have something that you would like to add? Did I miss anything specific?
No, I think you did a great job of touching. I think you did a great job of going through the development. I would say that, when you talk about the users, we're hearing from our national tenants and developments that you touched on the use of drive-throughs, and really most national tenants right now are feeling that this post-COVID world is still going to demand a drive-through sort of access, even with such access as large box stores are talking about bringing in drive-through pickups and different options to keep contactless. So I think this is not something that's going away. It's something we're seeing a lot of in other developments as well. So I think that it's important to remember that's what the national tenants are thinking about right now, and that's really integral to this development right now.
Can I interrupt just briefly? This is Linda Painter. We did have someone call in during Dory's presentation. If you could please identify yourself and then mute your microphone.
Yes, it's John Mancini from Durrell Companies.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome. Thank you, Linda.
Your point about drive-ins is well taken. I'm not sure, Bino, as our senior member of the commission tonight, can you remind me why don't we like drive-ins?
I was thinking that myself. I think that to something older to my time in PCC.
Linda, can you help us out?
I've heard rumors.
Okay.
I do believe
kind of anti.
I will say that what I had heard from staff that previously worked here was that the regulations came into place after McDonald's was built, and that there were a lot of issues, particularly with regard to, I believe, littering around town that happened after that came in, and so that those provisions with regard to no drive-throughs for food. So we do allow. So one of the things that is a little bit unique, and I will tell you, it was one of the stranger interpretations that I've seen, is that as long as you don't provide seating in your space, so I want you to think about Four Corners and where we have the Sunoco station with Mike's Pizza and Dunkin' Donuts, there is a drive-through there. And the only reason that could go in was because there was no seating, therefore it was not considered to be a restaurant, and therefore the prohibition on drive-throughs was not considered to apply. So by not having seating, that opened the door for Dunkin' to have a drive-through in that location. So it's, again, a little bit odd to me. You can do drive-throughs for banks, you can do them for pharmacies, and you can even do it with food as long as no one is actually eating on site. So
Katie.
I have talked with some people, and I've seen it happen in other towns, that once you get a McDonald's in, then you have a Burger King, then you have another drive-through, a Wendy's, and then you have a Starbucks drive-through. And their concern was, one, the trash, another was the traffic, and they just didn't want to have all of our retail space to be drive-through fast food. But as it was pointed out, that is more and more the norm now, because people don't want to go in. And you'll also find that, like, the McDonald's down by Eastbrook Mall, I don't think they're allowing any seating in there now. And I know that the Burger King in Vernon does not allow any seating. So it's pick up and drive through. That's all.
Now, go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you. I realize this is early in this process, but can you speak a little bit to I know this site you're talking about putting a large part of this drive-through on a steep slope area. You're also increasing.
Everyone who's not speaking, I'm sorry, Luann, we're getting a lot of feedback. So if anyone is not speaking, please mute your microphone, and you can turn it on when you need to speak. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, I just know it's early in this process, but I wondered if you could speak a little bit about the stormwater plan for this, because it seems like this is a steeply sloped along that edge currently. So I'm not quite sure what you're planning on doing with that. If there's going to be, looks like a retaining wall put in, and then there's quite a bit of increase of impervious cover. So, you know, you're not too far out from the river at this site. So that's part of my concern would have to do with that. If you could speak to any of that at this time.
Absolutely, thank you. Sure, so the first thing I point out is that this area identified right here is the stormwater management basin. We actually had the site surveyed. We had wetlands flagged. That's what these blue lines are. These are actually field located, delineated wetlands. We went out to the survey. So we are increasing the impervious. As you can see, you can kind of see it in the gray that this is, I can kind of highlight, this is the previous limits here of the site, right? So this definitely would be an increase in impervious area. So that, you know, on our lot, basically everything in this location would be impervious. But we would, you know, as we work through this process, we would provide as much treatment as we possibly can. We would obviously meet all the standards for the state as far as peak flows leaving the site. We originally met with Linda and some other folks in the town, and we talked a little bit about kind of how this layout was originated. Originally, the stormwater basin was just tucked in the back here, as far back as we could, and we thought one thing might be nice to kind of make this more of a feature. And so that's why we kind of added some queuing around it. And this could be, you know, there's some potential as we look at the design for maybe, you know, there was a conversation, can there fit seating? Can we fit some low impact design treatment methods in here that would also allow for something nice to look at as well? That was one of the initial comments. But I would say that we're going to provide all the necessary treatments. And I know we have to look at LID design as well. So I think we're a little early, but we are aware that these are certainly concerns. And we want to make sure that obviously any impervious that we do increase, we are treating that runoff before it does reach the river.
Okay, and how are you going to be dealing with that steep slope that fronts the road there too? I mean, that would be a drop right down into that parking lot with that new curb cut. Are you going to be regrading this whole area? How are you doing that?
Yeah, so the site would be regraded. We did take a first pass at a grading plan, and that's where this retaining wall that was identified. It's 1 to 10 feet tall. This obviously is a very steep slope. In order to make this connection work, it's a 5% grade up this slope. So this is 5%. So we are, we'll be adjusting the grade on this site, and then it's a 6% slope on this connection road here. So we have a 6% grade down to the Champaign Motor site, I believe, and then it's up to the 5% to the adjacent plaza. And that connection was a result of our meeting with the town as well. So that was something that was identified that we'd like to see potentially a connection, that would kind of interlock the entire both parcels there, both developments.
Thank you.
One note.
You also have the ability to walk between the different plazas?
So currently there is not a sidewalk right now linking the plazas. That's not to say that we couldn't put one in. Currently we don't show one. We currently show a sidewalk continuing along Stores Road here. So continuing this sidewalk here, and then an internal sidewalk. So to shorten the distance for anybody walking, to increase the walkability of the site, we have safe crossings here, and then connecting us to the front of this development, in front of where the restaurants and retail is located. But we wanted to promote and not restrict any walking access to the property.
One comment just to add to Dory's comments in terms of the amendments that would be needed. The other one has to do with the parking in front of the building. So we do have our site layout and design standards that say that parking should be located to the sides and rears of buildings, not in front. So I would add that to kind of the three, or make that a third one in terms of what was discussed for amendments.
Go ahead, Dorian.
Are you proposing to connect to the adjacent plaza?
Yes, we are. This is I believe it's a Staples here.
Yes.
I believe that. So yes, this connection road, based on our early conversations with the town, it was, mentioned that this might be a nice way to connect the plazas. I believe there's a shortcut, Linda. Maybe you can speak to that. People are, there's a kind of a pass through people are using. I think that I'm not 100% sure.
I think this is something that has been kind of, I know for the plaza next door that, again, this was under different ownership, but one of the challenges is, and anyone using that plaza knows, if you want to go from Staples or Petco to Eastbrook Mall, you're making a right, you're having to get all the way over into the left-hand turn lane to turn left. So one of the things we asked the applicant or suggested they do is to work on, and this would require an easement from the abutting property owner, but to provide that vehicular access so that if you're in these stores, you can actually get directly to a signalized intersection and reduce those kind of conflicts with trying to make those turns, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who has done that, where you're trying to do multiple errands in one stop and there's just not a good route to get there without crossing multiple lanes of traffic.
Yeah, important to mention, and I don't think it was mentioned, this is an existing signalized intersection, as we're all aware. We're proposing on adding a fourth leg to that. So this would be a controlled signalized intersection here that would allow for 2 lanes through, and the existing pavement width right now allows us to put this left turn lane in here. As you can see right here, we do have room here to put this left turn lane in where there currently isn't one. So this would be, obviously it's a state road, so it would be reviewed by state encroachment permit, and so that this would provide us a controlled signalized access here at this location. So.
Go ahead, Bino.
Yeah, I would pay special attention to Linda's comment on the parking. That's parking, if at all possible, should be on the sides and the back.
So I can speak to that. It was mentioned a little bit in Dory's initial comments. So it's kind of twofold. Is that when we go to a model that has drive-through access for the site, it does require enough room to safely maneuver the cars around the building and exit. So if we were to be able to move this building to the front of the site, if we were to take this whole building and move it forward, the issue is there's no way to safely install a drive-through. Even if there weren't 2 drive-throughs and there were only one lane in front here, that you still would have to set the building back in order to get cars around, and then you wouldn't really have a safe exit. You'd have an unsafe condition here at the signalized intersection. So with the way that these buildings have to be set up for these tenants, it really doesn't lend itself to parking in the rear or on the side, just because of where the building would need to be positioned in order to make this site work.
Yeah, go ahead, Dorian.
So are you proposing 3 drive-throughs?
There are 2 drive-throughs proposed on this site. There's a drive-through.
Yeah, but are you looking to have each of the restaurants to have a...
No, just 2 of the restaurants would require drive-through access. The third restaurant is more of a you go in, get your food, and come out. There's no drive-through for that restaurant.
So the kind of restaurant you're contemplating here would be a Burger King or a McDonald's or a Taco Bell, that kind of thing.
So I can't speak to who the tenants are, but I would say that some of them are more quick service, but some of them, I would say they're, I can't say they're not any of those, but I can't confirm or deny, but I don't, that's typically not how you would see. There's 4 users here. Those facilities are a little bit bigger typically than this, I believe. So they are not, I can't say yes or no to that.
All right. Fair enough. Any other questions from the commission?
One thing, Matt or Dory, if you can point out, when I mentioned the parking, it was to just say there's a third amendment that you may need to work on in addition to the setback. One thing that Matt had presented to us in the last meeting with staff was how they plan to kind of hold the edge in lieu of having the buildings come up to the street and screen the parking. So I think that's probably something, if you can kind of talk a little bit about that this was not just simply putting all of the parking in front, that you were looking at, having standards as to how to kind of mitigate that a little bit.
Yeah, so I can certainly start with that part if you don't mind. So what I'll say is I pulled this up quickly. This is our initial rendering. And so what I will say is that we show a stone wall here. We're open to working with different treatments. If you look at the Price Chopper, there is, we did pergolas that were done with bench seating, and there's a lot of different options. But our intent, as I can show here on the plan, is to put some street trees in, either a stone wall or something like the treatment that was done at Price Chopper in order to screen the parking from the street, and also present kind of like a facade of almost like a building that you're walking by. It's not like you're staring into parking. You would have some sort of a barrier, and that's kind of where our initial thoughts are.
Yes, John.
Is it possible that you could design like a sidewalk? So if you were to be going to, let's say you were at the mall and you walked across the street to restaurant, then you could walk up to Farm down to look at cars or.
So I think I heard you, Dory. Your mic's still on, so we're getting a really bad echo. I apologize if I didn't hear anything right, but I think you're suggesting it, coming from across the mall sidewalk. Is that what, I apologize. Can you just maybe restate your question? I'm sorry.
Yes, I was asking about sidewalks because currently you can walk across the street at the lights, but there's not a sidewalk on the car lot side. So if you wanted to go to Farmer's Cow, let's say, or Staples, there's no way to get there. But in your initial design, you had a way that a car could drive through, but not a pedestrian or a child, someone on a bike, or it's not a walkable site, I guess, to go from the restaurants down to the car dealership.
I understand what you're saying. So first, absolutely. So let me address that question. I guess, hold on, Linda, I guess I just got a text message from John Mancini. I guess is he not in? Is he waiting to be let in?
No, he's in. I had to mute him earlier.
Okay, no problem.
Well, he was in. I don't know. There he is.
Okay. There he's back. All right. So I'll first address your question, and thank you for that question. Adding a sidewalk in this area connect to the dealership or in a different location is absolutely plausible, something that could definitely be added. The same with this direction here. Adding an accessible walk would be a little tricky. It would require switchback concrete ramps most likely, or a very long winding road just to make the grade work. But it's something that during design we could certainly look at, and there's nothing that I see from a site constraint that would prevent us from connecting these lots. So hopefully that answers your question.
Hey, Linda, can I say something?
You're unmuted, John. Sorry. When you call in, if I have to mute you as the organizer, you can't speak. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's all right. So that's an excellent question, and Matt just answered it correctly. We can definitely go in either direction. And actually, Matt, for the car dealership to the left, we don't have to actually have the walk along the back service drive connection. The connection grade-wise at the front side of the site is actually flatter. So we can make a sidewalk connection there that would be at or less than 5%. So I think connecting both sides, both edges of our property to our neighbors would not be an issue. And to speak to that wall, I think thank you for reminding us about that. But the rendering, as Matt has probably shown on the screen, I apologize, I'm not at my screen. Is we're going to set that edge with that wall, but that wall can be a combination of pillars and trellis, like we did. Our firm BL Companies was the designer for the Price Chopper. So again, that edge there, and in that case, they benefited from the spine road in the back, so their only access wasn't just 195. They also had a back access where they can have, loading and offloading and all of that. So, I think that the connection to both properties, both with pedestrians and cars, is really good access management, and the DOT is going to like that as well, because the movement that was described earlier, I'm sure the DOT is not too fond about those types of movements, those sudden turns and then immediate turns in both directions across the road. So.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we've reached the end of the 30 minutes, and I appreciate the presentation. And looks like an interesting project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Dory Famigletti again, just for the record. We're pretty confident that we can make the site, whether it be the topography, the stormwater management, the road treatment that you're looking for. We're pretty confident we can make all of that work. It's really just knowing whether or not you're on board with some dialogue and discussion of those regulatory amendments in order to make this our proposed users work, which are really driven by the restaurants, not just the restaurants we're really tied in with at the moment and pursuing, but pretty much any restaurant in today's day and age is going to be demanding that drive-through capacity. So that just kind of pushes the development, as we said, to the rear, requires the parking in front so that we have room to maneuver and safely manage. I know that your regulations or your plan of conservation and development really speaks strongly towards walkable communities and complete streets. And I think that we can provide that pedestrian connection between the adjacent and abutting property owners, like we were talking about, even though we're not doing it in the way your regulations presently specifically direct us to, by pushing the buildings forward and all that. So we're hoping that you're open to it. We're hoping you like what you see so far, and that working together, I think we can craft a regulation that gives you the controls that you need to make sure it's done right and you're comfortable with it. And we could work with both staff and the commission on implementing those changes. If you've seen enough that you want to say, yes, you're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't discourage you from applying. I think a year after COVID started, your point is well taken that drive-in may be a lot more acceptable. Is there anything we can do about the garbage? How do we get people to be responsible about their garbage?
I'm sorry. There is actually. I'm working in Tolland right now. Tolland for many years hasn't allowed drive-throughs for restaurants either, and I'm working with them on their regulations and allowing more drive-through access. And one of their components of their special permit criteria is a litter. I'm not sure if this is the right terminology, but it's a litter management system. And as part of the plan, we have to propose and show what we're actively going to do to make sure that it doesn't become a problem and there's not litter all over the place. Lots of towns worry about that as a spin-off negative consequence of drive-throughs. And I think with the right type of plan that could be incorporated as a condition of approval and therefore enforceable, is a step in the right direction to give you some comfort level that we won't let it be a problem, and we'll make sure our tenancies stay on top of that and really manage it.
Okay, well, thank you for the presentation, and I think the commission would agree with me that we would welcome an application.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time then.
Thank you. So we're getting near the end.
We are. So the next item on your agenda is the Desegregate Connecticut initiative. So just based on emails that have come out from the coalition, it looks like the bill was voted out of the Planning and Development Committee. There were a couple of changes, particularly with regard to Section 6, which is actually one of the sections you commented on and suggested changing to only apply the TOD provisions, and there was another one for communities of 30,000 or more, just to try and take some of the burden off smaller communities. That was taken out just based on the report that I saw today. They are going to lobby for that to be added back in. But it was they're happy that it was voted out of committee and that it's moving on to full consideration by the House and Senate. So that's a milestone for that project. So that's all I have on Desegregate Connecticut. Again, I'm relying mostly at this point on emails and updates that Sarah Bronin is sending out as the leader of that initiative. Under reports, I don't have anything on for myself, so I would defer to any of the other items there, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I don't have anything either. I don't think I've ever made a chairman's report. I'll have to do that someday just to see what that's like. I think we're done for tonight. So we are adjourned at 8:03 p.m. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.